The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the college baseball experience, where we've got a brand new show here today for Saturday's games, giving out picks for every single game here, handicaps, angles, betting odds. We have run lines, totals, and money lines for all 8 games that will be taking place tomorrow, a full 12 hours before any of these games begin. What a sight to see. It's the first time this has happened all year. Absolutely outstanding. I can't wait to talk about it. We had a great slate of action on Friday. I'm looking forward to, this being at somewhat of a reasonable time. We're not doing this at 5 a.m. Eastern time. We might have a good chat bump in here today. And, I came prepped. I did the entire prep prior to this weekend. So I already had all the pictures. I just needed the plug in place. We've got, of the 8 games, 16 teams, we've got 14. We've got 14 probable pitchers. So we are ready to go on basically all of these. Absolutely outstanding feeling here, as we're going to be first to the market after a lot of these Friday games here that just took place. And, I have bullpen handicaps for those 4 games as well. So I'm very, very excited to get going here. Hasty's in the chat here. He goes, I can't believe the 4 money line favorite parlay hit. I mean, I'm just going to do the Jordan shrug. I can't explain it. We had 2 very, very sweaty ones. The 2 that I felt the best about, North Carolina and Virginia, were the 2 sweatiest of the day for sure. Ryan Hasty says, give the natty to Florida State right now. He says 18 hits and 24 runs. Wow. Luke Goins is saying I was late, so I'm fired. I tweeted out that I'm ready to go at 11:55, and I went live at 11:58. 20MC20 says, which team that lost today has the best chance at winning 2 in a row? We'll talk about that when I dive into the handicap, when I dive into the bullpen reports, because that's really going to give us that answer, I think. Avetta says, hey, yo. Ryan Hasty says, good question, 20MC20. I got to go with West Virginia or K-State, he says. Ryan Hasty says, sup. Noah goated. Chalk came through all the day. Tyler, he says, let's go, Noah. Well, let's go, Tyler. David Matola says, no sunflower seeds tonight. Actually, you're wrong. I've got my, I was gnawing on some of them while I was corralling all the stats that I needed for today's show. Iveta says, I got Florida State 65-1 to win the national championship. Tyler said, I rocked some of that hat today. Hey, that a boy. Good stuff. Josh Carter saying, winner of Tennessee, Florida State game 1 in Omaha wins the national championship. That's actually not like the worst take in the world either. Like, I think that's a really good, just pick. Like, whoever wins that game, whether it be Jamie Arnold against that duo of Tennessee, like, they've got a great shot. They're in the driver's seat. They're probably going to be the more rested bracket as well, as we saw. Their entire side of the bracket all played on the Friday game, so they're going to have an extra day of rest. Avetta also said, by the way, congrats on 10,000 subs. We greatly appreciate it. We wouldn't be here without all of you guys subscribing to this YouTube channel for all of football, basketball, baseball. It's not just this baseball show. Honestly, we are carried by that basketball show. Football does great. Baseball does great. We appreciate all the support that all of you guys have given us. And this channel has only been live for 2 years. So the trajectory and the growth that this channel has had is outstanding. Yeah, so let's dive into the games. I mean, seriously, we've got a full full super regional slate, 8 games here on Saturday, and they're beginning. 2 of them begin at 11 a.m. 2 of them have shots to punch their ticket to Omaha at 11 a.m. Before we jump into this, don't forget to sign up for the Hockey Gambling Podcast Stanley Cup contest. $100 cash prize, $100 gift card prize to the winner. Go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Stanley Cup to enter. Okay. Game 1 on today's slate that we are going to dive into here is Florida State and UConn. So if you guys didn't watch this game, it was probably the one game that you probably could have skipped and not watched today. Florida State wins 24-4. It was an absolute blowout. By the nature of it, though, let's jump right into the bullpen report. By the nature of the blowout, Florida State did not need to use a single, important arm out of that pen. They used a combination of 4 guys that all threw less than 25 pitches. No Oxford, no Armstrong. Those are the 2 really important names that you need to know for the Seminoles bullpen. They're in really good shape to lock up game 2 with Jamie Arnold on the mound here. For UConn, Ian Cook, the Big East pitcher of the year, went in this game. He only threw 37 pitches. He got chased after giving up 5 runs on 3 bombs, I believe it was. Garrett Coe, their 3rd starter, came in and basically just 8 innings. They punted this game. He threw 103 pitches, gave up 8 runs. And after him, 4 other pitchers combined for less than 30 pitches. But by then, it was over. Like, when he came out of the game, it was like 14 to 1, I think it was. So there's your bullpen report. Really nothing too notable. Ian Cook could come back on Sunday if this goes game 3, only throwing 37 pitches on Friday. But I think they've got a really uphill climb because Jamie Arnold's on the bump for Florida State. He's a sophomore left-handed pitcher. He's their ace. But he threw Saturday last weekend in the 1-0 game. So Link Jarrett didn't feel the need to switch him up. And now he's matched up against Stephen Quigley, who's been UConn's best starter as of recent. The odds on this game, Florida State's -410, UConn +290, total set at 11. I mean, we saw plenty of balls leave the yard today. -115 both ways on that. Florida State's -4.5 +100, UConn +4.5 -130. So Arnold, the ace, he's 11-3 on the year, 2.45 ERA for the Seminoles with 146 strikeouts, 22 walks, and 95.1 innings with a 1.64 SIERA on the season. For UConn, it's going to be Stephen Quigley, the graduate senior right-handed pitcher who's 6-3, 3.69 ERA, 84 strikeouts, 24 walks, and 97.2 innings with a 2.05 ERA in his last 4 starts. They have the entire bullpen to work with Quigley as well. They are going to throw the kitchen sink here in this game because if you don't win this game, you don't get a game 3 in general. So you do not want to leave any of those top dogs sitting in the pen just waiting around, waiting for their turn here. Quigley's going to go. When he gets in trouble, he's going to get a quick yank, and they are going to mix and match their 3 best arms. Their bullpen's not bad. For the year, it's a 5.03 weekend bullpen ERA, which is top 50 in the country, 834 team OPS, 101 WRC plus. Like I said, though, top uphill climb when you have Arnold, Oxford, Armstrong all ready to go for Florida State. Quigley, on the other hand, starting for UConn, graduate senior, 6-3 record, 3.69 ERA on the year, 84 strikeouts, 24 walks, and 97.2 innings with a 2.05 SIERA in his ERA in his last 4 starts. Not sure if I mentioned that already. I just wanted to run back over that real quick. I think this game has a good chance to stay under, but I think your best play here is UConn +4.5 -130. Just with the amount of arms that UConn has available, they should be able to keep the Seminoles from putting up 24 runs like they did today. And for watching the press conferences, the heat, the mugginess, the humidity really affected UConn. They didn't have the appropriate amount of time to really kind of get used to that. As I mentioned, this was a tough schedule, time slot for UConn. They played the late game on Monday. They got back to Stores in the middle of the afternoon on Tuesday. They hosted recruits on Wednesday. whether it be from transfer portal or freshmen. They just said they hosted recruits. They got out there Thursday afternoon. They really didn't have a ton of time to really acclimate themselves to the weather and to the climate because they practiced kind of in the evening and they played in the heat of the afternoon, and it kind of killed them. Both of their catchers had to leave the game due to heat exhaustion. Like, it was rough. I do think game 2, like, they should be a little bit more ready for that. And this total seems a little too low, even though that all the good arms are ready to go in this game. I feel more comfortable saying UConn plus 4.5 and minus 130 is a great pick. It honestly is a fringe bet here that I feel pretty dang good about. We'll come back at the end of the show, and if I need bets, that's going to be one of them for me. I'm going to fix my chair here. For some reason, I feel like I'm sinking. And we're going to catch up on the chat before we move on to another game. Hasty says, hey, 10K, let's fucking go. Best college sports content on the web. Evetta says, yep, was 24-1 until the very end. She's asking over. I mean, the ball's going to fly. It's, again, another early game in the hot weather. Like, Tyler says he already bet the over. It seems too easy. Tyler says for UConn FSU. And then Hasty says over 11 seems reasonable. Also feel like Florida State ends it in 2 games. And Travis Loveland says he needs the locks, daddy. Let's do one more game and then we'll hit the first ad. So the second game that begins at 11 a.m. Eastern is another game that we saw on Friday. It's the rematch, game 2 between Tennessee and Evansville. Tennessee's minus 920 to win this game. Evansville's plus 550. Total set at 14.5 minus 115. And the run line's plus 7.5 for Evansville. Minus 125 on that. Minus 7.5 for Tennessee's minus 105. I've said this at the beginning of the super regional preview. I think Evansville's best chance to win. Like, I knew Kenton Deverman was their ace. I knew they trusted him. But I think the recent form of Drew Beam actually gives Evansville their best chance of winning today. That offense actually surprised me in being able to tag the duo of Stamos and Causey today for a couple of runs. They put up like 5 runs against that duo, and not many teams in the country have been able to do that this year. So the bullpen report here, Stamos threw 27 pitches. He'd probably be good to go on Sunday if they really needed it, if they really got into a firefight on Sunday. But they haven't really used Stamos on a Sunday much this season. I don't expect that to happen. Causey's probably done for the weekend after 82 pitches. Kirby Connell probably not going to return here on Saturday after throwing 34 pitches. And Aaron Combs, one of their better relievers, they felt the need to throw him at the end of the game here against Evansville to make sure they closed it out. He threw 20 pitches. He could probably come back tomorrow, but again, not full rest. The remaining arms for Tennessee, they are not shallow. They have plenty of depth. The 2 arms that they'll probably use here on Saturday out of relief after Beam is Dylan Loy, who has a 2.28 ERA in 27.2 innings this season, and Andrew Banky, who has a 2.92 ERA in 24.2 innings. It's just a wealth of embarrassment of riches that Tennessee has. For Evansville, this bullpen is a little bit shaky at times. 6.21 weekend bullpen ERA on the season, whereas Tennessee is just a 3.36. Kenton Deverman threw 89 pitches. I doubt he's going to come back this weekend. Shane Harris, their best reliever, threw 44. So he has not pitched on back-to-back days at all throughout the regular season. The first time he did that was actually last weekend in the regional finals. So he threw 81 pitches on the Sunday against East Carolina, and then he came back in the regional final against East Carolina and threw 10 pitches. So he's going to be, I think, capable of doing it. 44 is a little bit of a stretch whether you want to bring him back on the next day or not. Let's jump into the starting pitching now. Drew Beam, junior right-hander for Tennessee, is going in this game. 8-2 record, 4.16 ERA, 80 strikeouts, 22 walks in 88.2 innings. His last 3 starts, this is the thing that I've highlighted prior to this series, .689 ERA in his last 3 starts. And an Evansville lineup that looked pretty good today. 918 team OPS, 119 WRC plus on the season. They can be able to put up runs on Drew Beam. I mean, Indiana scored 4 in 4 innings last week. He's been tagged recently. Evansville, they're going to go with Donovan Schultz. He's a senior lefty, 6-2 with a 5.84 ERA, 72 strikeouts, 32 walks, and 89.1 innings with a 4.35 Sierra. For me, this is a bet. Evansville at plus 7.5 is crazy. Like, that is downright like just dumb. That's going to come down. You're going to get good CLV on that. It's already kind of shading that way at minus 125 here for plus 7.5 on Evansville, but I really like that pick. I think the Purple Aces will be able to keep. I don't even know if I can really say they'll keep it close, but I mean, 7.5 is not close. Like, you could lose by 6 runs. It's never a game, and you're still going to be able to cover this. I love the 7.5 pick here, minus 125. That's going to be one of my favorite picks of the day. I'll get to the first ad read here, and we'll come back and we'll hit on the YouTube chat. Pick 8 is now live on Underdog Fantasy. By the way, I mean, we have college baseball player projections on Underdog Fantasy now. You can create entries up to 8 picks now on Underdog, and it will automatically double flex your entries. So you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part is you can win up to 325x your original amount. So you can now use specials and boosts in the flex entries as well. So for game 2 of the NBA Finals, you can find Kyrie Irving higher than a half point. And I highly encourage you guys to use that. And we do not have any player projections out for tomorrow, but definitely check that out tomorrow when we have the 8 games, a full slate. Should be pretty fun if they put up some player projections. But that was a very nice surprise for me. I put out a video. The Vance Honeycutt bomb in the 9th inning clutched it up for us, but Bobby Whalen unfortunately wasn't able to get the higher than 1.5 total bases. He was walked, he was hit by a pitch, and he got on an error. So unfortunately, he scored 2 runs today and was on base 3 times, but did not actually record a hit, let alone 2 total bases for us. So sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. Going through the YouTube chat here. Vetta says, damn, I was rooting for Evansville. That injury was unfortunate for them. I mean, so the broadcast booth, I think, had this completely wrong, too. So the ball, I don't know if anybody, if you saw this, the ball actually hit off the left center field wall and ricocheted into the kid's like face, and it hit him. Like, the way the sunglasses are made right now is like they're completely covering the entire face of some of these kids, and the lenses are sharp, so it hit the sunglass and it cut the side either above or below his eye. I couldn't see, but it was like right there. That was the sunglasses. It was not the ball. And they're talking about how the ball, kind of created the cut. Personally, I've had that happen to me. It's not fun. But yeah, I from firsthand experience, that was the ball. As a third base, like some of you may know that I grew up playing third base. You'd be like, how in the world were you hit in the face by a fly ball? That was the one weakness of my game. I was not able to catch a pop-up. Could not read it depth perception-wise. I needed to be either 20 feet behind the ball to be able to see the pop-up. So, like, I could go and run and get it, by the third base dugout. But if it was straight above me, I needed my shortstop to come in behind me and catch that pop-up because I was not good at reading those fly balls right above me. David Wade says, looking at Florida State, Georgia, Virginia moneyline parlay right now for tomorrow. We'll get into that in a little bit here. I haven't honestly solidified any of my picks. Like everybody knows, when I do this show, I complete the initial handicap and then I read through it again with you guys, and then I make my decisions Mailman Mike 3 says, how long can North Carolina team keep this late inning magic going? I don't know, dude, but like they're a very solid team even without the late inning magic. Ryan Hasty says Evansville plus 7.5 flashed in my Canadian book, but it's gone now. That's unfortunate. Tyler says books think it's going to be 11 for UT tomorrow. Yeah, with the total that's set at 14.5 and the plus 7.5, that's crazy. I don't think that happens. Everybody's talking about Drew Beam being like the best Tennessee starter. Yeah, that's been the case for a lot of the season, but he really doesn't have the swing and miss stuff. And when you're looking at this Evansville lineup, they've been able to hit the ball really well, and they saw it well against Tennessee in game 1. Josh Carter says if the ball is flying like it was today, it's going to be ugly for Evansville. Tennessee 16-4. I think Evansville looked good today. I mean, they had one ball that barely hit off the top of the wall that could have been a home run, and the game could have been a little bit closer than it was. But for as dominant as Tennessee looked offensively, like Evansville was kind of right there with them for the entire game. Billy Amick hit one that hasn't yet landed. I tweeted about that. Actually, today, like a lot of people were watching college baseball. I mean, you had the one game on ESPN and another one at the other 3 were on ESPN too. That helps a lot. But like when you put them on the national television when everybody can watch, it's going to help the game. My mentions were blowing up left and right on a lot of the tweets that I was putting out, which is amazing to see. Josh Carter says Noah's wrong. Tyler, that North Carolina game was epic. Tough for my West Virginia 200-1 bet to win the College World Series and needed that for a hedge spot in game 2 or game 3. I assume. Yeah, that's tough. We'll talk about that in a little bit when that's the last game of the night. I just think I always bring shit up to recap games when I'm talking about the next day's games. So I'm not going to waste any time in the beginning of the show recapping when I'm probably just going to recap some of the game when I talk about the game coming up. So the next game that we'll talk about here is the 2 p.m. Eastern start between Texas A&M and Oregon. This is a 1 o'clock Central time start, 11 a.m. Pacific for those in Eugene, Oregon. The Ducks are playing in the heat of the Texas sun. I've been told or heard that it was supposed to be 92 in this game, I think. So should be a little bit of a tough climate again for the Oregon guys, just like it was for UConn. But the Ducks should have benefited a little bit by being able to get into College Station a little bit earlier than UConn did. So it's not going to be as bad, but if you play through a whole 9 innings, it should be a little bit tougher for the Ducks here. Texas A&M on the money line minus 345, Oregon plus 250. The total set at 10.5 minus 115 both ways. A&M is minus 3.5 plus 105. Oregon plus 3.5 minus 135. So Oregon's going to start RJ Gordon. He's a junior right-handed pitcher who's 7-5 on the year, 4.73 ERA, 83 strikeouts, 42 walks in 91.1 innings with a 4.35 SIERA. However, on the road this season, it's a 7.16 ERA. For Ryan Prager, he's a sophomore lefty. He's been the best pitcher on this A&M squad, starting pitcher-wise. He's 8-1 on the year, 2.53 ERA, 113 strikeouts, 19 walks in 85.1 innings, 1.99 SIERA. And at home this season, it's a 0.91 ERA. I mean, the home road splits here between the two starting pitchers is like, jaw-dropping and certainly notable here for the game. I think Texas A&M wins. You look at the bullpens, they're both pretty even. Texas A&M 350 weekend bullpen ERA, Oregon with a 391. But that A&M offense is legit. 128 WRC plus, 973 team OPS. Oregon can't match that with an 867 team OPS, 107 WRC plus. They need Texas A&M to continue to slump. Braden Montgomery has not had the greatest stretch of games here to finish out the regular season, going into the SEC tournament, going into regionals. It's been a little bit of a rough stretch for their MLB draft prospect. Expected to be in the top 10 this summer. But I mean, that 1, 2, 3 in the order all have over 20 bombs on the year, with Gavin Krahovic leading off, Jason Laviolette in the 2 slot there. Like this lineup doesn't really have a hole where Oregon's going to be able to take advantage of it. And I think the ball is going to fly. at College Station in the middle of the day. It's not going to be like that Texas game when they're playing at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, where the ball kind of was dying in the air. Like I think a lot of the warm weather today during the day games, and I mean it even continued in the night games for today's action. The ball was flying. I mean, we saw some absolute moonshots on Friday. 3 of the 4 games went over the total. This 10.5 to me seems low for Texas A&M, Oregon. I think you're going to see quite a few Aggies runs, specifically on RJ Gordon, who has a 7.16 road ERA. And the Texas A&M minus 3.5 is not a bad look. So I would go with A&M money line. That's a great money line parlay piece. A&M minus 3.5, I feel pretty good about. And I also like the 10.5 over as well. So I think I would put the over above the minus 3.5 play, but I think I feel pretty good about this game going in the Aggies' favor. Let's jump back into the YouTube chat here. Sportsman 2728, he has the Kentucky logo on his avatar, and he says Batcats money line. Any plays so far? I just got here. Well, Evansville plus 7.5 is a bet for sure. For me. And I feel good. I feel really good about a Texas A&M money line piece. We'll talk about that at the end of the show here. But I like that over 10.5. I like the minus 3.5. Those will probably be, we'll talk about them at the end of the show here, along with that UConn spread play, run line play. I mean, at the end of the show, because I think all 3 of those picks so far have been really, really solid. And we've got great angles for all of them. Chad G says, let's fucking go, chat. And Noah Big Balls Bieniek, baby. Josh Carter says, all SEC money line parlay. Tennessee, Texas A&M, Kentucky, and Florida. He's not touching the Georgia NC State game. Oh, Josh, you hurt my feelings, because that's probably my most confident pick here today that we'll get into in a little bit, the Georgia NC State game. The over 10.5. Tyler's asking for the Oregon A&M game. Yeah, I like the over. Chad G says, what's up, Avetta? Been working on a data science masters 1. Shout out to you, Chad. Good shit. And F Tennessee will play that Aces team, says Sportman 2728. Let's go into the next game. 2 p.m. Eastern start. Florida, Clemson. This should be a good one. As Liam Peterson has been on a roll lately. Last 5 appearances for the freshman right-hander, 2.50 ERA. On the season, though, he's 3-4, 5.61 ERA, 70 strikeouts, 32 walks, and 59.1 innings. Clemson's going to trot out Tristan Smith, like I expected, sophomore left-handed pitcher. 2-0 on the season, 3.88 ERA, 62 strikeouts, 29 walks, and 46.1 innings. 3.41 Sierra. However, since he returned from his midseason injury, it just hasn't been the same. 5.64 ERA for him during that time period. You look at both offenses, they're pretty similar. Florida supplies the power, whereas Clemson hits for average. That's your only difference here. But when you look across the board, when it comes to run creation, it's about even. Florida with an 893 team OPS, 110 WRC plus. Clemson with a 913 team OPS, 116 WRC plus. It's just how each team creates their runs is a bit differently here. Tristan Smith, he does have that swing and miss stuff that should help him against this Florida lineup with a lot of swing and miss in their bats potentially. They are more of a go for it all, go for the long ball team. And I think Clemson's bullpen is much deeper than Florida's. Florida with a 5.75 weekend bullpen ERA, Clemson with a 5.21. But if you look a little bit deeper into the Clemson pen, they are pretty deep. 6 of the arms that are frequently getting the ball from Eric Bakich right now, ERA is under 5, and Florida just can't match that right now. Kind of the best arm that they've got right now is Brandon Neely, who can give you the length for sure. But they've kind of struggled with that pitching depth all season long. The one weekend in the Stillwater Regional doesn't give me enough confidence that that's going to be able to come back and not be an issue for them in game 2, in weekend 2. For what it's worth, I think Liam Peterson gives Florida their best shot to win a game in game 1 or game 2. I personally The way that Caglione has been going doesn't give me a ton of confidence that he's going to win their game. 5.97 ERA for Caglione in his last 6 starts. So I think if Florida wins a game, it's game 1. Clemson, I know they're my preseason national title. My biggest position to win the national title, but I think Clemson has I think Florida has a very good shot to usurp Clemson in game 1 here. So the betting odds here: Clemson -160, Florida +124 on the money line. Total set at 13.5, -115 both ways. Clemson -1.5 is -105. Florida +1.5 is -125. I think the best bet here is Florida +1.5. Just get the +1.5 just to be safe. Clemson has a habit of coming back late in games this season. They have 25 comeback victories. If they win by walk-off and it's not a walk-off tank by 2 or 3 run version, you're not going to lose by more than a run, if you know what I mean. So I think that's your safest way to play this game if you want to get something on. Probably one of the more entertaining games of the day, in my opinion. +1.5 on Florida, -125 is probably the best move for you. +124 on Florida would probably be my second favorite in this game. And then the under 13.5 would be the way I go for this one. Clemson Park plays a little bit big. And, if both pitchers are able to go all right, they should be able to keep the offenses in the park, I would say. Before we continue on this show, let me talk to you about Rhythm, because if you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download the app Rhythm. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning their algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which you can make whenever or wherever you normally place your bets or DFS picks. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll a sportsbook. Rhythm also allows you to create your own NBA custom models so you can get AI-backed moneyline spread and total picks for every playoff game. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. The college baseball experience is also brought to you by NYRA, Naira Bets. Bet the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga with Naira Bets. To join now to claim your $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus just in time for the Belmont Stakes this weekend at nairabets.com/SGPN25. You need an extra boost? Bet the Penn Mile with a bonus. Earn $10 win or lose when you bet at least $100 on Penn National on Friday. Visit nairabets.com to opt in. And that's not all. Get $10 win or lose when you opt in and bet at least $100 on Monmouth Park on Saturday. On Sunday, it's your chance to win big at Monmouth Park. Grab a share of $2,500 when you hit the last 2 trifectas. Just opt in and at nairabets.com and get ready to cash in on the excitement. The winning streak continues when you can score another $20 win or lose when you bet at least $100 on Asiniobia Downs on Monday. I continue to probably butcher that racetrack name. I apologize, but just remember to get your $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus for the Belmont Stakes to go to nairabets.com/SGPN25. That's nairabets.com/SGPN25. Okay, we are home free on the show. I apologize for any of the people that dislike the ad reads, but it's how I make money and how the college experience in general pays our bills. Jumping into the YouTube chat. Josh Carter says, "Watch your mouth, sportsman," about the Cats when he said F Tennessee. Ryan Hasty says, good nugget on the post-injury drop in ERA. Noah, Josh Carter, I'm betting Kentucky so you can bet Tennessee. Don't have to like us, but I like money. CRS Transio says, I can't wait for the Saturday games. Let's go. Full slate of 8 games. Absolutely amazing. Hasty says, did Noah say Caglione is starting? Spelling. No. Liam Peterson's starting. Josh Carter says Florida's power in Clemson Park will show. Caglione will start on Sunday. Chad G says, glad to see Noah has not changed that wallpaper. Don't you dare think about it. No, ever. Well, when I move out, this is going to be my dad's office once again. When they had a kid, they put me in the largest room that they had, and it was his office. So he had, um, it's a replica of one of the golf courses that Arnold Palmer designed. Unfortunately, I cannot remember which one it is. I always have trouble remembering. But we're a big golf family. We love the game of golf. So yeah, the wallpaper is a golf course. Hasty says, nice number, Thornton. Good shout out. Danny Dumbshit says, aces plus 4.5 was a sad L for this young lad. They had a chance in the ninth. They went down 1-2-3 after I think they got some runners on base. If I recall, I was at a restaurant getting ready to watch the 6 o'clock start between West Virginia and North Carolina. So that game was turned off inside the restaurant. Danny Dumbshit says the first 2 outs of the top ninth were just woeful APs. Trey Willis says UConn Florida State under tomorrow. I feel so that's gone up. So it was 10.5 at the beginning of this show. It's now 11 for what it's worth. I feel like it still probably goes over 11. Just I know there's plenty of good arms for both teams available, but I just think it probably goes over there with all the offense that we saw today. But I do think if you like the under, just take UConn plus 4.5, because for the same reasons that you should like an under, you should like UConn on the run line. Toxic Draco says, thanks for helping me cash a 4-leg parlay today. Hey, the chalk all hit today. Just don't get cute. Like I said, it wasn't meant to be a cute day yesterday. The SGPN episodes on lacrosse have been hilarious. CJ is deep in his bag. I just haven't. I love that they're dipping into lacrosse now. I have not been able to tune in. Like I've been balls deep in college baseball the last 3 weeks. Chad G says, FYI, without college basketball, I've begun to watch obscure Japanese anime on Netflix. My Hero Academia is awesome. God, I missed college basketball. We're making good money on college baseball. I encourage you just have fun, watch college baseball. It is chaotic the way these games have been going lately. Noah Thornton says West Virginia and K-State spreads hit, though, can get cute, just not greedy. Correct. Josh Carter says, let's just have all the favorites win supers, and we are in for an explosive Omaha. That's what I'm hoping for, Josh Carter. Honestly, like I don't need the upsets this week. Just give me all the best talent in Omaha. That's what I'm rooting for. But I do love chaos too. I'll root for chaos any day of the week. But if I had a secret rooting interest, it's just give me all the best talent to showcase college baseball in the best possible way on ESPN and ESPN2 every single day throughout the College World Series for that 10 to 12 day stretch, whatever it is going to be stretched out to this year. The third to last game that we're going to talk about here today is Virginia, Kansas State. This game, game one was played on Friday. Virginia wins 7-4 via 5th, 6th, and 7th inning spurts of runs. They were trailing for most of the game, and they were able to pull it out. Henry Godbout ripped a 3-run bomb to kind of put it on ice for Virginia, and we were able to get that thing across with our parlay of Virginia and North Carolina. Both of those were really, really sweaty, but it comes through. And, Virginia minus 280 here against K-State. K-State plus 210. Total set at 13.5, minus 115 both ways. K-State plus 3.5, minus 115. Virginia minus 115 is minus 3.5. So I'm going to go with the dog here, and I feel pretty good about it again. Going into the bullpen report, Virginia threw Evan Blanco for 102 pitches. He's not going to return for this weekend. Angelo Tonas threw 17. Matt Augustin threw 9. So they're both going to be ready for this game in game 2. I learned something new today. Borma is how you pronounce his last name. For a year and a half, everybody's been pronouncing it Barema, but with the NCAA tournament game notes, they apparently adjusted the pronunciation of his name. So Borma, Owen Borma, he threw pretty well against Virginia kept that offense down for quite a bit. I was actually quite surprised. And then Virginia jumped on the Kansas State pen. Dean Blank, who's been one of the better Kansas State relievers, he threw 22 pitches, giving up 2 runs to this explosive Virginia offense. Cole Weisenbaker, who's also a good arm for Kansas State out of the pen, threw 15 pitches. He gave up a run. Borma threw 95. You're not going to see him for the rest of the weekend. The thing that, leads me to believe that Kansas State has a very good shot of not only covering the run line, but to win this game is they've got their best arm, just talent on their team. And Tyson Neighbors has not thrown yet. Like I said, for UConn, you do not want to leave him sitting in the bullpen ready to be used. You are going to use him as soon as Jackson Wentworth, who's been their best performer this season throughout the year. Borma had his ups and downs. Like, he was kind of really inconsistent throughout the season. And Neighbors was hurt for a little bit. Wentworth has kind of been the most steady arm. When Neighbors was hurt, he was their closer. When Neighbors came back, he moved into a starter and started to be stretched out for the postseason, and he's good to go. I mean, Jackson Wentworth, a sophomore right-handed pitcher. By the way, Kansas has the hammer in this game. They'll have last at bats, which kind of looked important so far throughout the NCAA tournament. So Wentworth, sophomore right-handed pitcher, 5-5 on the year. 4.11 ERA, 110 strikeouts, 25 walks, and 81 innings with a 2.28 Sierra. On the road, he hasn't been as good with a 5.11 ERA. But I mean, that partnered with Tyson Neighbors should be good enough to keep Virginia's offense down. Neighbors on the season has a 3.93 ERA with 60 strikeouts in 36.2 innings. Virginia's going to go with Jay Woolfolk. Now, I was really impressed with his last outing against Mississippi State. But again, this is another arm that has been kind of inconsistent this season. He's 3-1 with a 6.15 ERA on the year, but his last 3 starts, or last 3 appearances, I should say, he has a 3.21 ERA. He looked really good for about 8+ innings against Mississippi State last weekend. And, he's kind of the hot arm. He's kind of reminding me of Thatcher Hurd last year for LSU. On the season, he's thrown 52.2 innings. He's only got 35 walks, which is average. I would say it's not great. It's not bad with a 4.26 Sierra. So you look under the hood, he probably should be performing a little bit better than the 6.15 ERA leads on. I just think, like, Kansas State, the offense is pretty solid. We saw that today where they had kind of some threats early on in the innings before Blanco really kind of settled in. And from there on out, Kansas State was kind of held at bay. I think Wentworth and Neighbors gives Kansas State a great shot to win this game. So I'm going to take the run line. That's going to be a bet of mine. And then, honestly, I think the money line's also a play. Like, I think you go with to win one unit on both. And just by the nature of that, it's a ladder play. So if you win the run line, you should still come out plus, because you'll gain the unit. And if whatever the money line play currently, plus 210 comes out to be. So it's what we've got. If you put a half unit on that, so if you only lose a half unit on the plus 210 money line, whereas you throw a full unit on the run line here, you're gonna come out just slightly plus. But I do think it's worth the squeeze on the money line here for Kansas State. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the plus 3.5 with the Cats, plus 210 money line as well. Just because I think they'll be able to fight. So if you took the over 2.5 in the Charlottesville Super Regional, I do not recommend you play the money line. Just ride the over 2.5. Take the run line with Kansas State. That works out as a great hedge. You can win both bets possibly in today's game, or you can just, if it doesn't go to a third game, you still possibly have a shot to win that plus 3.5. So I think that's a great play. To kind of semi-hedge or fully hedge out of your 3.5 games played. But, I mean, the reason why those are kind of handy is we don't know how the bullpen's going to work, and Kansas State didn't throw Neighbors at all in game 1. He's going to be fully rested. If they need him to go 4-5 innings, he's going to be able to throw 70 pitches here today and be able to lead Kansas State to a win. So I do like Kansas State here today quite a bit. Let's go to the YouTube chat here. I kind of went a little bit long on that handicap, but I do think it was warranted because I think that's a great play. Omaha has the potential to be chills, says Sportsman 2728. Josh Carter says, think about the offenses in Omaha, possibly Tennessee, Florida State, Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Texas A&M. Oh, my God. The brother man says, LOL, My Hero Academia isn't an old anime. We're getting into anime talk here in the college experience YouTube chat. That is above my pay grade. It all flies right over my head when we're talking anime. JW says, who's the best two starting pitchers going tomorrow based on your thoughts on known starters not projected? So are you asking, JW, I have a follow-up. Are you asking for the same game or just the best two starters? Because Jamie Arnold's one of them. And honestly, Stephen Quigley's pretty solid too. That might be Prager. And so Ryan Prager for Texas A&M is probably above Quigley, and he's probably above Arnold for what it's worth. So I think it goes your top four that you'll see here on Saturday. Ryan Prager, 1, Jamie Arnold, 2, Aiden May, 3 of Oregon State, and Stephen Quigley, 4 of UConn. That would be how I answer that question. Hasty says, I will check out that anime show. Josh Carter says, Sportsman, you are right. Kentucky offense would actually be scary in Omaha. Yeah, they already play in a big park and they can hit the long ball, but they're also very capable of just playing the base running game, moving runners around, manufacturing runs the old-fashioned way. And Kentucky's been very solid this year doing that. Daniel Atkinson says Hard Rock needs to release more lines. Devin says Fanatics has the run lines and total runs. Let's go, dude. College baseball is growing, finally. With more eyes on the NCAA tournament, makes sense why this is the case. Mississippi State left 10 plus runners stranded and scattered 8 hits. Woolfolk was good, but Mississippi State had plenty of chances with runners in scoring position. It only adds more fuel to the fire in my belief that Kansas State should be able to compete in this game tomorrow. So good point, Noah. Hey, Noahs think alike, right? K-State sounds like a good dog tomorrow, says Hasty. Josh Carter says, yeah, K-State is definitely a play. He also says Virginia's vaunted offense hasn't really been great the entire tournament, which is a good point. I mean, today they came alive in the middle innings, but I mean, they scored 4 runs against Penn. They scored 5 in the first game against Mississippi State, and then they kind of blew the doors off Mississippi State in the 8th and 9th inning. So, throughout that regional, it was, I guess you would say, like average. It wasn't vaunted like Carter put it. So yeah, Devon says, is Texas A&M a lock tomorrow? Yeah, I like Texas A&M quite a bit. I do. I think the money line is a parlay piece. I like the -3.5, and I like the under. And no, I like the over slightly in that game. I think it was. Tyler, wish I could be at the Mattress Factory in Omaha this year. Chad G says it isn't old. Damn, seemed like it was. Oh, they're talking about the anime again. JW says dogs who lost today going to have a lot of value on the run line. 4-0 favorites on the run line. I don't think it was favorites were 4-0 on the run line today. I think it was 2-2, if not 3-1. Josh Carter says, you have no idea how many fans college baseball got once Tennessee became good. Best fan base in the country, he says. CRS Transio says, I joined late. What was your favorite play for tomorrow? We'll go over that at the end of the show here. We've got 2 more games that we're going to jump into. 6 p.m. Eastern game time between Oregon State and Kentucky. I'm going to grab a drink before we go. The Cats are -130. The Beavers are +100. Total set at 11.5. Kentucky -1.5 +130. Oregon State +1.5 -166. So in this game, we've got TBAs for both. So this is the one game that didn't announce starting pitchers yet. I feel pretty good that Oregon State's throwing Aiden May. Typically, Mitch Canham does not like to switch up his starting rotation. May's been the ace all season long. He's actually got 1 extra day of rest coming into this game, too. I don't think that really should matter, plus or negative. That one extra day of rest, it can work in both different ways. He's a junior right-handed pitcher who's 7-0 on the year, 2.88 ERA, 79 strikeouts, 22 walks, and 68.2 innings with a 2.90 SIERA. And then going for Kentucky is Trey Poozer, who's been their most solid arm this season, starting pitching wise. He's a graduate senior right-hander transfer from College of Charleston. 6-1 on the year, 3.77 ERA, 71 strikeouts, 29 walks, and 76.1 innings with a 3.81 SIERA, 2.65 ERA in his last 3 starts. I think this is a low-scoring game between the two teams here. It's a bigger park than most other college baseball parks. The total is kind of in that sketchy place to possibly work on an under here, and it would be under 11.5 in this game. But Oregon State's bullpen is solid, 3.86 weekend bullpen ERA, and we're working with a clean slate. Nobody's thrown any pitches for the Beavers yet this week. Everybody should be good to go in that pen with a 989 team OPS, 131 WRC plus for the Beavs. Kentucky's bullpen is a little bit worse with a 5.14 weekend bullpen ERA, but it's not too marginally worse. The offense here, 906 team OPS, 117 WRC plus. The thing here that kind of is the kicker, and I'm going to take Oregon State. I think this is the Beavers' best chance to win one of these 3 games against Kentucky. I'm actually going to bet Oregon State. This was my plan. So I have Kentucky to win this series. I think, one, they have the opportunity, the pathway to win this game, possibly. I don't think it's like, I think this is perfectly priced. You get Oregon State at plus 100. I have Kentucky to win the series at minus 140. I think they'll be a bit larger favorite in both game 2 and game 3. But I think Oregon State's best chance to win a game in this series is game 1. You look at later on in this series, I'm going to pull it up real quick. They have Jacob Kmatz, who hasn't been tremendous recently. He pitched great against UC Irvine last weekend, so that kind of ruined like a poor trend in his recent starts. But on the road, it's a 5.26 ERA for Kmatz, and then the freshman Eric Segura throws game 3 for Oregon State. That's what I have projected, at least, and that's what they've done as of recent. He's got a 7.06 ERA on the road, so those are both pretty good fades for me in game 2, game 3. This is a semi-hedge, so if you've taken Kentucky with me in the series, like I said in the Super Regional episode, at minus 140. I think this is a great play for us to jump in on Oregon State and possibly still win both bets here. And Oregon State, like I mentioned, they've got the clean bullpen, and if Aiden May is able to build them a lead, like I think he will, it's going to be a low-scoring game. Oregon State's going to use some of those top arms in that bullpen and keep Kentucky's offense around 2 or 3 runs, I would say. Oregon State, I think, will be able to scratch off 4 or 5, and they win this game in a low-scoring manner. The Beavers, I think, win the game. So I wouldn't say Oregon State's my favorite play, but I do think the way that we've set ourselves up for this weekend, this is the best single bet that we'll have for the weekend, because I think Kentucky is going to open up a little bit larger than minus 130, and I won't be interested in playing that because we have already got the minus 140 series price, and I do feel comfortable about them winning a possible game 3 and that game 2. So yeah, that's the thought process behind the Oregon State here. If you so are they open? Yes. So I would, Kentucky's minus 130 to win the Super Regional right now. I would grab that right now if you haven't played that already, and then also bet the Oregon State Beavers to win this first game at plus 100. I'll get to the chat in a second here, but let's finish off the slate. The 8 o'clock game is the repeat of the thriller, the Chapel Thrill, city, we're calling it, because the regional was epic. The first game of the Super Regional was outstanding. Kyle West, I believe it's his name. He broke out in this game for West Virginia. Their DH that they've kind of shuffled throughout the season hits 2 bombs. And you look at Vance Honeycutt, the superstar for North Carolina. He does superstar things, hitting a walk-off 3-run tank for the Tar Heels in this one. Derek Clark pitched his ass off, but it just wasn't enough. I think A lot of people are going to go after the decision to trot Clark out for the ninth inning. I do think that's a little bit of it was a little erroneous, I would say. And hindsight's 2020. Derek Clark finished the game with 144 pitches thrown. They were up by one going into the ninth. I, I think you could have gotten away with if the thought process is we don't want to throw or we don't want to play 3 games against these guys. Let's win it in 2 because we don't have the pitching to win 3 games against North Carolina's lineup. They needed to start Aiden Major with a fresh ninth inning and just let him go with the 1-run lead, let him take care of business after Clark had, I think, 132 pitches after 8 innings. You see Clark give up the home run to Stevenson. Then I think it was a walk. No, it was a single up the middle that chased him. And then Major comes in, throws 6 pitches. He's their game 3 starter. He's still going to probably be able to start game 3 if they win game 2. But that was just tough to watch because I do think, Mazey's been around the block quite a bit. I do think he's probably kicking himself. He would have probably gone with Major in that one. Yes, Derek Clark was an absolute dog, but you would have probably wanted, with the 1-run lead, a fresh arm to take that 9th inning, knowing that a couple of hot sticks for North Carolina were in the possibility of coming up with that top of the order right around the corner. And it didn't even really get to 2-3 in that order as the leadoff hitter, Vance Honeycutt, ended the game. For this game, we do have confirmed pitchers. West Virginia's the home team in this one. North Carolina is going to be batting first. Jason Caro is the freshman right-handed pitcher. He's been their best starting pitcher for North Carolina this season. He's 5-1 in the year, 4.08 ERA, 67 strikeouts, 38 walks in 79.1 innings with a 4.50 SIERA. West Virginia is going to trot out Tyler Switalski, a junior left-handed pitcher who's 5-2, 5.34 ERA, 54 strikeouts, 34 walks in 60.2 innings with a 4.55 SIERA. In his last 5 appearances, he's been very solid with a 2.56 ERA. However, the same handicap applies. So the reason why I bet against Derek Clark in West Virginia in game 1 is because North Carolina rakes off left-handed pitching. They are once again seeing another lefty in Switalski in this game. They have a 1039 OPS against left-handed pitching. Against right-handed pitching, it's still very solid with a 948, but I mean, they're almost a full base better OPS-wise than they are against orthodox pitchers. So the bullpen report for North Carolina here is that, Sprague threw 89 pitches. He's done for the weekend. Matthew Mateus threw 8 pitches. Ben Peterson threw 9 pitches. Poston with 39 is probably the one that's questionable to come back. Peterson struggled a little bit. West Virginia had kind of gotten to him a little bit in his 9 pitches. Mateus is probably going to throw in game 2. I would count on that along with Pence. Those 2 are the ones that you're going to see out of the pen for North Carolina. That pen has a 4.50 weekend ERA on the season. West Virginia's, again, they're dealing with quite a few injuries in the back end. 5.68 weekend bullpen ERA there. And you look at the North Carolina offense, 950 team OPS, 124 WRC plus. West Virginia with an 839 team OPS, 101 WRC plus. I mean, we saw West Virginia fight, and they also showed up pretty well. That fan base was in the building and quite loud when they were going good for a good bit of this game. However, I do think North Carolina just has the matchup advantage. And that was the reason why we took the Tar Heels in the series. We took the Tar Heels to win game 1 with Clark on the mound. You're getting a better price because of the reputation that Clark had built. This line now at minus 315, minus 3.5. I don't have an interest in betting this, knowing that we already have the series price in this one. So I'm personally staying off. I would say I feel good about North Carolina winning this game. If you do not have the series price, this is probably a good parlay leg. But with the fight and the life that West Virginia showed, I think the plus 3.5 is a little bit too much. I do think they'll probably be able to cover that. And the total's at 12.5. I do like the over in that quite a bit, actually. I do like that over a good amount. So I'm going to write that one down as well here. UNC, West Virginia over 12.5. That's one of the other fringe plays that we've got for this game. And that is our show when it comes to the picks. We're going to get into the YouTube chat. You guys go ahead, comment any questions that you guys did not hear live. I'll go over them once again. And we'll also make a parlay here on the show, like we always kind of finish off the show. We don't throw in any kind of crazy plays. We're just making a logical money line parlay here. Yeah, let's go into the YouTube chat first before I take a glance and trying to make a parlay. JW says, what are the odds for the most Jello shots at the College World Series? Tennessee actually had a poor showing last year when it came to the Jello shots. So I think so if West Virginia gets there, they are going to show up and show out, and they can drink a ton. they can throw a party. That would be one of the few that I think I would throw in the favorites. Kentucky, it would be one of their first. It'd be their first trip to Omaha. Big Blue Nation's pretty passionate. I don't know, if they're able to drink a gallon of Jello shots, take by 1,000 a piece at a time like LSU was last year. But I wouldn't doubt Big Blue Nation here. Texas A&M's got to be in the favorites pool, and Florida State, North Carolina, and Tennessee are kind of in that next group of runner-up, I would say. We announced Poozer was my projected pitcher for that game. Tyler says, I have the Beavers to Omaha. I think they can win the Super against Kentucky. I mean, it's a coin flip Super. I'm going off of a lot of my, matchup projections for this one. Tyler says, how much do you give to home field advantage in college baseball? A lot. Beavs to win the series, says Danny Dumbshit. Josh Carter says, what offense is comparable to Kentucky's in the Pac-12? I just don't feel I can't finish the comment there. I like the contrarian pick here. Everyone's on the Oregon State. It seems Oregon State's really average away from Corvallis. Yes, they're 9-10 away from Goss Stadium this year. I think they win with May, but they're vulnerable in game 2 and game 3. JW says rollover parlay would pay a ton more. Probably. Hasty says, let's go Beavs. Josh Carter says, how many good offenses does Oregon State see in the Pac-12? I personally think Aiden May's ERA is reflected by competition being bad, but I don't think Kentucky's got an elite offense though. And as Sportman's saying here, it's all about momentum for the Wildcats offense. If we don't get on base the first few innings, probably won't win against the pitcher like May. Connor Johnson, who's a Beavers fan, says, not in Globe Life. Beavs play up to competition on the road. They were swept at Cal. They struggled at Stanford. They struggled at USC. So I don't know if they have played up to their competition on the road. Travis Loveland says, are you posting pics on Twitter? I usually post them kind of an hour before hour before game time, I mean. Chad G says, Chicago style pizza or Detroit, Noah? Well, I mean, personally, you're talking to a guy that lives an hour outside of Detroit. I love Detroit pizza because it's easily accessible to me. But when I leave the area and I am in the Illinois, Indiana area, I love a good Chicago as well. I preferably, if it's up to me, I'm going to get rid of the Carter chat here. If it's up to me, I like the thick crust compared to a thin crust. That's just me. So give me the Midwest pizza compared to the East and West Coast. Midwest does it best. Josh Carter says that's neutral on the road. You're just not as good, and it's facts. I tend to side with Josh Carter here in this argument that took place in the YouTube chat. It looks like Hasty says, fair point, Josh. Pac-12 isn't exactly the SEC, but he was a stud last year at Arizona as well. he's improved a lot this year with Oregon State, just in the strike throwing aspect. He struggled with his control a lot with Arizona last year. Travis Loveland says, ain't nobody beating LSU with the jello shots. I don't think that's happening. If you were to put a spread on plus 10,000 of anybody to come within 10,000 jello shots of LSU from last year, I don't think it's happening. Connor Johnson says, we've been average on the road. May's gotten better every outing I've seen him, bias aside. I would agree with that for sure, especially coming off the injury. Georgia and Texas A&M moneyline parlay. Did we talk about? We skipped over the NC State Georgia game. I apologize. That one's my favorite bet of the day. I skipped over that. Connor Johnson said that would be playing down to competition on the road. Beavs have another gear. Noah Thornton says one series in Tucson when it was nut cutting time and Pac-12 championship on the line. Best environment / team played on the road. Cal, USC, obvious blunders though. Don't get me wrong. Tyler says Jets is awesome. Yes, it is very awesome in the Detroit area. Josh Carter says, Noah, this is awesome. Just discovered the channel. Hey, Josh Carter, I really appreciate you jumping in here and shooting the shit. I do appreciate all the input from the chat. We've got over 60 of you guys here live on YouTube right now, over 318 that have tuned in across all platforms. Connor Johnson says Globe Life wasn't neutral for Arkansas, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. Yeah, their fan base showed up a little bit better than Oregon State's just because of the distance. And at Noah won the Zona series by aggregate of 30-5. Another level, he says. Yeah, but it was a great matchup for you guys, though. Like their pitching, as we saw, was kind of. They benefited from a weaker Pac-12 we saw because they cracked in the regional going 0-2, and they also cracked against you guys when going up against you for a Pac-12, regular season championship. They got blown out in the first two games. The first game wasn't necessarily a blowout. The second game, from what I remember, was. CRS Transio says, have you been to Michigan and Trumbull in Detroit? Best pizza. Yeah, I haven't met a pizza that I don't like. For those of you that don't know, my uncle actually owns a pizzeria. So like I eat pizza like probably twice a week. And that's the reason why I'm now out of playing shape from my college baseball days. Josh Carter said, how did Arizona do in the regional? Yeah, I kind of answered that for everybody. I apologize. I don't know why I skipped over the Georgia NC State game. Let's go back to that because that's my favorite play of the day. Georgia's minus 150, NC State's plus 120. Total set at 14.5 here, minus 115 both ways. Georgia minus 1.5 is plus 100. NC State plus 1.5 is minus 130. So this is a clean slate, by the way. I mean, the first game that both of these teams have played this weekend. Starting for NC State is Sam Heifel, graduate senior right-handed pitcher, 6-2 on the year, 5.35 ERA, 73 strikeouts, 38 walks, and 74 innings with a 4.50 SIERA. And on the road this season, that's a 9.30 ERA, and he's also not been in the greatest form recently with a 6.37 ERA in his last 5 starts. Going for Georgia is Colton Smith, sophomore right-handed pitcher who's 9-2 with a 4.41 ERA, 99 strikeouts, 19 walks, and 65.1 innings. He's got a 180 SIERA on the year, which is incredible compared to the 4.41 ERA. At home, he's got a 2.33 ERA. And in his last 9 appearances, it's a 1.59 ERA. So you got one guy who's been very, very good recently and also is great at home. And you got another guy who really, really struggles on the road, and he just has not been pitching his best baseball recently for NC State. And their bullpen, NC State's isn't great with a 5.76 weekend bullpen ERA. I know Georgia's isn't good with a 7.20 weekend bullpen ERA, but they've got one of the best offenses in the country with a 10.31 team OPS, 138 WRC plus. They are going to be able to win the offensive onslaught in this game. Also against right-handed pitching, the Georgia Bulldogs have an 11.07 OPS. So, they really excel against orthodox pitching. I think that's a huge edge against NC State, who has an 874 team OPS, 110 WRC plus here in this matchup. So I love Georgia at minus 150. I took them to win the series at minus 150. This is a game that I will personally bet again, double up here on Georgia minus 150 to win the game. That is my favorite straight bet of the day. For what it's worth, I do like Georgia -1.5 at +100, and I would take the over 14.5 in this game too. So we've got 4 bets that I absolutely love, and honestly, that's enough for me in a given day. What I'm on here for, and we'll get to the parlay in a second. What I'm on here for Saturday's slate, I love Evansville +7.5 -125. I think that's really disrespectful for a team that kind of showed us offensive prowess against a really good Tennessee duo and Chris Stamos and AJ Causey. Drew Beam recently has not been great with that 6.89 ERA in his last 3 starts. So I think Evansville's going to be able to get to him, get into this bullpen that already used their 2 best pieces, their most experienced piece in Kirby Connell and their most wicked piece in Arid Combs. So I think Evansville has an outstanding shot of covering the +7.5. The next 2 are on the same game. I love Kansas State +3.5. They have the duo of Jackson Wentworth and Tyson Neighbors ready to go, full rest. They have not pitched yet this weekend. Wentworth has been their best pitcher all season long. Neighbors is their highly touted draft prospect that you're not going to want to leave in that bullpen without having thrown in important innings. As soon as Wentworth gets in a little bit of trouble in the 4th inning or beyond, Neighbors is going to come into the game and finish the game. He's going to go 70 to 80 pitches. I can guarantee it. If he comes in the 4th or 5th inning, he's just going to finish the game. He's going to keep Kansas State within striking distance of Virginia. This is not going to get out of hand. I love Kansas State at +3.5. I think they've got a very good shot of winning the game against the Virginia bullpen with Kansas State's offense. So I also have a sprinkle on Kansas State to win the game +210, but I love Kansas State +3.5. And my favorite play of the day is Georgia -150 to win this game for all the reasons that I just stated in the game again for NC State. The fringe 4 plays that I was on, UConn +4.5. I think it makes a ton of logical sense. Like, they're a team that, they've got their best starting pitcher on the mound, both recent form and on the year, Stephen Quigley. They've also got some bullpen options that they're able to use. But the nervous part about that is Florida State also has every important bullpen piece that they need to be able to close out this game. So definitely not UConn money line, but I think this should be a lower scoring game with all of the top pitching options for both teams ready to go because of that blowout in game 1. So I like UConn +4.5 for all of the exact reasons why you should like under 11. If that game is low scoring, that helps out the dog on the run line, especially with a large run line like a +4.5. The next one is Texas A&M. I like their offense to be able to score quite a few runs against Oregon. RJ Gordon on the road this season hasn't been great. 7.16 ERA on the road. Texas A&M -3.5 is a great look. I also like the over 10.5. If you're looking at the -3.5, those 2 plays just really correlate together. And then for the other fringe play that, I'm just not going to fully commit to, but I think it's a great pick as well. North Carolina, West Virginia over 12.5. You look at the 2 offenses, the way they performed today, and North Carolina facing a left-handed starting pitcher once again. They should be able to get Switalski pretty early and often. And once they get to Switalski, West Virginia does not have much in that bullpen, so they'll be able to put up some runs. Whereas Jason DeCaro throwing on a little bit short rest. I mean, not really. He threw like 120 pitches last weekend, only 60 on Monday, I believe it was. So he's on 5 days rest here in this start. He should be good to go, but I do think West Virginia showed enough fight in today's game, and they have enough crowd support there in Chapel Hill to be able to put up some runs and help that over out. We're going to finish off with the parlay here. I do like Texas A&M in that game -345 on the money line there. And let's do Texas A&M. And I think the next team that I'm most confident in, like, I'm betting Kansas State. Virginia is the next highest favorite along with North Carolina. I think West Virginia is going to be able to score. I already have money on North Carolina to win the series. I don't want to overextend myself on that pick. I think my next favorite team to win a series. Because I think UConn's going to be able to keep that one close against Florida State with the arms they have available. I think Georgia and Texas A&M is the parlay that I've got for today's slate that comes out to plus 114. That's going to finish up today's show. I'm once again going to finish out on the YouTube comments. Jad G says, "Oh, did not know that about the pizza. I assume probably my uncle working on or working at a pizzeria, owning the pizzeria." I worked there for 2.5 years, kind of end of high school, beginning of college. Tyler says, "Did you talk Clemson, Florida?" I think it's going to be a very close game. I picked Florida. I think Liam Peterson's probably their most backable starting pitcher and just pitcher in general right now for Florida. But I do think, if Florida doesn't win that first game, I think they lose the second game. If they get it to game 3, if they're able to win game 1 and or game 2, if they get to game 3, that's a really coin flip game in game 3 there. Josh Carter says, "Does college have a first inning?" I wish there's first 5 innings bets, first 5 innings market in college baseball, but we just don't have that, unfortunately. He says, "I really like Georgia getting out early, but the state bullpen is nasty recently. They have pitched very well." I talked about that in the super regional preview. Josh Spencer says the Wildcats plus 3.5 worked on Friday. Joseph Spencer. Josh Carter says Tennessee going Beam Snead duo tomorrow to close it out. Most likely, but I think Beam gets touched up early. And that might keep Snead out of the game. Who knows? Hasty says WILD Cats. WILD Wildcats. Shout out to Colby's soundboard there. Tyler says DKA is not allowing parlays yet, which sucks. What? I haven't placed any of these yet, so I'll have to get off and make sure I can get on these lines before they move. Joseph Spencer says, "I need A&M to finish a game 1 parlay with Tennessee and Florida State. Great looks, all of them. Makes a ton of sense." Josh Butrick says, "Didn't you mention in your super regional previews best bet for UConn, Florida State? Game 2 was the under due to the pitching matchup you projected." Correct. And it's the same pitching matchup. What I saw today, 24-4, has kind of given me cold feet. I will say that. But for the exact same reasons that I mentioned, the reason why I like UConn plus 4.5 is because I do think this is a lower scoring game, and those two plays are going to correlate. With a low scoring game, the dog on the run line has a much better chance of covering the game. A&M minus 2.5, 115. You see, that's great. I mean, DraftKings was displaying 3.5. Yeah, they still are. I haven't refreshed the odds page, so maybe that's different now. Philly Liverpool FC says Clemson and Florida. We talked about that. Joseph Spencer says, "I bet over 2.5 games at Clemson, Lexington, and Athens Super Regionals." I like the Clemson and Lexington plays for sure. I do think you probably have to bet Georgia in one of the first 2 games. I think Georgia's pretty live to sweep NC State this weekend. Josh Carter says he talked Clemson, Florida earlier. I think he likes Peterson and Florida in game 1, but Clemson to win the series. That is correct, Josh. Josh Buttrick says, "Just confused because earlier in the show you said you would take it over or just take UConn plus 4.5. Yeah, so it's contradicting. It sounds contradicting at least. Handicapping the game with all of the important bullpen pieces and the 2 really good starting pitchers on the mound, my inclination is under all the way. However, seeing Florida State put up 24 runs on the Big East pitcher of the year has given me cold feet, as in, what if the regional that UConn just came out of, wasn't very great. And also UConn was really affected by the humidity down in Tallahassee on Friday. Same game time, an hour early, actually, compared to yesterday's game. I think this game's lower scoring for sure. And I do like the way the pitching sets up, but UConn plus 4.5 directly correlates with an under. And I would just say UConn plus 4.5 is my favorite pick of the 2. Travis Loveland says, what you think of Georgia, Florida, A&M parlay. Honestly, I don't love Florida in it. I would just say, like, I would recommend you just throw in like a Florida State or Tennessee instead of Florida. In that, because I do think Florida is it's a coin flip, even worse odds than a coin flip game, to be honest, with Florida. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. We had over 60 of you guys consistently throughout the entire show. Good conversation throughout the entire thing. I really appreciate all you guys being active in the comments. But yeah, that's going to do it. I think we've got a very, very good slate tomorrow, and I really like a couple of the plays that I have, and even some of the other ones that I felt pretty good about, but I'm not going to pull the trigger on. I would recommend to a lot of people. So I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Like I said, you've been experiencing the better side of college baseball with the College Baseball Experience. Adios, amigos.